Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino. And today I have a special episode. I actually have two guests. Her name is Anne Therese Val Emanuel. How are you, ladies?
We're good.
Good.
Really
So let me,
good.
and that's awesome. So let me give a little bit of introduction. And what I would like for you guys to do, each one of you guys, give me your backstory because you know it better than I do. But both of you guys are in an agency that puts ethics, sustainability, environmental, and social justice at the core of the business. You guys founded this in 2017. The agency came to life from the desire to build a platform where models are given a voice to speak about things they believe in. You wanted to show the world that models can be incredible agents of change and help shift the pop culture in direction needed for a better future. Wow, that's amazing. I definitely want to know more about that. But maybe we'll start with you, and tell me about your backstory. Where are you originally from, and how was your upbringing? And then we'll go to Val.
So do you want the long story or the short one? No, I'll be short. I'm born and raised in Sweden, so hence the accent. But yeah, I grew up in Sweden. I moved to New York for the first time when I was an intern there doing my undergrad. And always knew I wanted to live in America. I don't know why, but I was kind of drawn to be here. And moved to New York thinking that I was going to get a career in marketing and figured out a way that I could use the skills of marketing and advertising to speak my message and kind of change the world. That was kind of what I was saying, actually. Like, I want to change the world. I'm going to use marketing to do so. And I thought there was this power in using imagery and messaging to really shift people's minds and hearts. And I think I've always been very drawn to that. So I thought, you know, if you can trick people buying stuff they don't need, surely you can use the same tools and tactics to also like create some real change in the world. So I started, I went to New York for marketing, and while I was there, I thought, okay, how can I have an impact? What can I do to really start sharing my messages? And I thought that first of all, I need to kind of make a name for myself. I'm a nobody, no one cares about what I'm saying. And I thought, well, what can I do to do so? And the one thing I thought of was to become a model. So I put myself on this mission to become a model pretty late for my career. I was 24 at the time, but started reaching out to photographers and to agencies and whatnot. And finally I got signed, and I thought this was it. You know, I've made it. I've become a model, and now finally everyone's going to listen to me, and like all eyeballs are on me. That was just not what happened. It turns out that as a model, you're not really asked to have a voice. You're not asked to have an opinion. They want you to just kind of show up on time and be quiet and just follow like all the directions and be like a blank canvas, more or less. And being an entrepreneur and this kind of like wild spirit that has a lot to say, I just did not like, it didn't resonate with me. So this idea of a different kind of agency representing models that were passionate about things, that wanted to use their platforms to speak up about things they care about, started kind of like just, you know, nurture itself inside me. And I think I shared the idea with a few people, not too many, but one of them was Cesar, and she eventually introduced me to Val. And that's kind of the beginning of the agency. But that was my short version of my backstory, and then Val can take over and share hers.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So I actually started in the entertainment industry when I was really young, when I was 2 years old. I started modeling, and you know, for a while, I really thought that it was exciting and I liked it, but I knew as soon as I became a teenager that I wanted to work on the other side of the camera. I was like, I don't know if I want to be working at an agency or a director or casting or something. And so I always knew that I was in front of the camera to get access to the other side. And I really wanted access to the other side because I didn't like how things were run. I didn't like the attitudes in the industry. I didn't like the pace of how people moved, I just thought there's got to be a better way to communicate with talent. There's got to be a better way to run things that's more ethical. And so I really started managing my friends at the beginning of the whole influencer marketing boom. Started producing video content for people. I started casting for like Chris Brown music videos. And I really just started to get into doing what I wanted to do with my life. And so I kind of put that out there like Anne Therese did. And I just was talking about it at a dinner one day with Marcy, and Anne had just talked to Marcy. So she introduced us via email because I'm in Los Angeles and she was in New York, but we had these parallel ideas. So it was really just like, I tell people, put that energy out into the universe, like say your ideas out loud, because you never know what's going to happen with that.
I gotta love that. So, and by the way, both of you guys are in probably one of the best cities, right? LA and New York. I'm in LA myself too, so it's like I love it here, right? And I have a curiosity. So, at what age do you come to the States? And I think that when you're making that kind of change, could be very interesting, right? I'm from Mexico, and I came here when I was 10. But even going through that shift, it was definitely a major shift. What about you? How was that for you?
I came here the first time when I was 18. I did like an exchange year in high school,
Okay.
and then I went back to Sweden, and I, just got a taste for America, and I knew I wanted more. So I think it was, what was it, 23, 24? I know I was 23 when I came back and did my internship. And I was in New York for like about 4 months. And again, I was like, I'm not done with this city. I need to come back. So I applied to do my master's in New York and got in. So I went to school at City College of New York and did my master's in marketing. So I was kind of down that path, and it's been a very, bumpy road, as I think you understand, like coming from a different country too, and it's no sure thing. And it's been a long journey to getting to where we are now. But yeah, it's been interesting to be in a Sweden in America. But I think these days I feel like I'm not one foot in each country, but I'm definitely more American. My culture has definitely shifted a little bit. So
Has shifted, yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So for one of you guys, or if you guys both want to answer, what has been one of your major challenges that you had to overcome throughout the years?
I think for me, a lot of imposter syndrome. I know you guys both talked about being, immigrant to the United States. Like my family, we're immigrants. My mom is Latino. She's from Panama, and my dad's from Antigua. And so I always felt like I was trying to fit in where I didn't, like as you see on my little bio, it says Val from Venice. And we actually went to school in Brentwood in the Palisades because they didn't want us to go to school where we lived. And so imposter syndrome for me came up really early, like we were going to school and like going to Pamela Anderson's house on the weekend, and we lived below the poverty line. My mom was kind of like really faking it until we made it. And I actually didn't even know that I was poor until I was like a teenager. I had no idea that we were poor. My parents really didn't have that type of mindset. So for me, I just knew that something was off, and I really had to build my self-esteem, put myself into rooms and go, you know what, I belong here. It doesn't matter if I'm the only like Latino person in this room, the only Black person in this room, I belong here. There's a reason that they want my opinion. And so that for me is just something I always try to speak life into other people. Like, no, don't feel like you're not good enough. Just show up. Even if they ask you for a casting and you don't get the job, we have to tell this to our models. Just the fact that you were asked to go on a casting, the fact that you're with an agency is something that so many people can't do. So imposter syndrome is definitely something I have to overcome even now.
Yeah, it's like what just because you get one no doesn't mean that you should give up. You got to continue to go through that, and it doesn't matter if it takes 5, 10, 20 different no's. You're getting closer to the yes. And it also reminds me of the idea of you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I know that's a huge one, and it has been for me even when I came to the States. Like I know I wanted to just go back to Mexico just because I didn't feel comfortable being here, not knowing anybody, not understanding the language or speaking the language, not having friends. And I just wanted to go back, and I was comfortable being poor and not having anything because that's what I was used to, right? And it comes back to that from many different aspects. Yeah.
I would agree too. And something that you said about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. When we first started this agency, I had no idea what this entailed. Like I had no idea what the work was running an agency. I just wanted to change the world, and I wanted to work with models that were cool and had all these messages. And, I was kind of like building the website and creating all the content around marketing and stuff. And then, we start signing up some models, and we start, putting them out there. And then one day I kind of have a call with Val, and I go, I don't think I want to be an agent. And she goes, well, we just started an agency. Is that kind of what you are? And I'm like, no. Like, you can deal with that stuff. I can just do all the other things. So she's like, well, I need your help. Like, you need to figure out how to do this work. And it was so terrifying in the beginning. I was like, I need to pick up the phone and talk to casting directors. I had modeled myself for maybe like less than a year. So I just started to understand the industry. And it felt crazy to now be on the other side and like dealing with production and photographers. And it was just like, a whole new world for me. But in doing more and more and just kind of like, taking a deep breath and saying, you can do this, you got this, and, you're here, you'll figure it out. And I think that's something that I want to say to people, that you will figure it out, and I think it's really important to face your fears and just slowly walking into like a different territory, and you will figure it out. And something that Val and I keep getting too as feedback is, because even though that she had more experience than me, none of us had ever worked for an agency before. So we didn't exactly know how things were supposed to be run. So we just kind of done it our way, and like, well, I think this seems like a, appropriate way of dealing with people. And some of the feedback we're getting is like, oh, you guys are so different. And so refreshing to see something, in this industry that's not like what it typically is. So I would say that too. Sometimes not knowing is a good thing.
I love that. And one thing that I really like about the message and the idea that you guys are putting out is the fact that, again, even right now, right, in this world of entrepreneurs, you see a lot of male figures, and there's a lot of that, right? And I like the idea of being able to give models a voice to speak, to show their ideas, to do that. I mean, I think that's pretty amazing. How did that come about? Besides, you guys talked about, or you talked about in at the beginning that, here you're modeling, but you were not able to speak. How does that change the dynamics of the model industry, or the things that you do by allowing the models to speak and have a voice and bring their opinions?
I think it helps a lot with marketing and branding. In the past 5 years, you can see that brands, when they don't stand up for something, when they don't have a stance on Black Lives Matter, or they don't have a stance on politics, like, people get on them. They're like, silence is speaking. You know what I mean? So for us, when we connect our models with these brands, we just realized that it created a much better marketing campaign for everybody. It's not just like you're putting some random girl who looks totally unhappy and emaciated in front of people. Like, this girl's got a story, and not only she has a story, but she also has a following. And so when brands reach out to us, they want to know, like, whose audience is interested in sustainability, whose audience is interested in social justice. And so we really try to connect on a deeper level rather than just like who fits the sample size. And so I think that more brands and more agencies are moving towards that. When we first started our agency, I had scouted for other agencies before, but like I said, didn't work really inside. And I saw them trying to even change to be more like us, because they saw how much value it was to add a model's bio, to say what a model was about, how much more value that could add to a brand. So I think it just adds value to everything that a brand and a model is doing.
And if you think too on like that very other end of it, where the people who follow a model and, the influencers, like, the reason you follow an influencer on social media is because that person inspires you in some way. And typically a model will be told to, like, don't share something too personal, don't show your flaws, basically, don't be too opinionated, like, just be this perfect little thing that people can look up to. But like, what are we looking up to then? It's something that's not real. It's something that's not showing everything. And we are creating a world that we think people should aspire to, that doesn't have opinions about anything, that's supposed to just look perfect and flawless. And I think that is shifting so much. And I think for both the people following and for the influencer and the model, like, the ability to feel authentic, to feel like I can actually share what I believe in, and that's being, received in a way that, people want to hear these stories, what I'm trying to say. So I think it's like, honestly, like, it may sound like a grandiose mission to say we're out to change the world by changing pop culture and inspiring and empowering models, but in a way it is, because like, they then go out and speak authentically to their audience, and that is how new trends starts, and that's how we start shifting the world. So yeah, we're out on a pretty cool mission here.
And it starts with that like you said, that change, that idea, and you guys have something here that said, trust that your crazy ideas have value, right? So trusting that you do have something bigger and greater to give back is like going after that. And so, one, if you can elaborate more on that. Number two is even that, just having an idea, and a lot of times we people, so here's crazy statistics, right? We have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day going through our mind. Of that, 80% of them are negative, and 90% or 95% of them are repetitive from previous days. And so when you do get one idea that sounds to be kind of good, or a crazy idea, is like, you shouldn't disregard that idea. And that's kind of what you guys did. You guys had some sort of ideas. It's like, how can we come together? How can I connect? And that's how you guys met. And then you ran with the idea. I think that's a very critical, important message for the people that are listening to us and watching us, is that if you do have an idea, as crazy as that might sound, that might be the idea that can help you move forward in your own personal life and also impact in other people's lives. So I want to see if I can get more from both of you guys in terms of that, and elaborate more on that, trusting the idea, that crazy idea.
Yeah, I think it really starts with the mustard seed of faith, right? I like to look back at everybody who's done anything before and they were the first person, or that they were like, this is kind of extreme examples, but like prosecuted or put in jail, or, whatever, assassinated. I'm like, all of them are now in history. And we always talk about, like, we're the only agency that's calling ourselves an ethical agency, but we shouldn't be the only ones. You know what I mean? We shouldn't have just us being change makers. But really what we did was we came and we said, we don't know if this is going to take off, but even if it doesn't take off, we hope that this sparks something good. And so I kind of, we did the footwork and we put the rest up to, seeing what would happen and just having faith that if you try and fail, it really doesn't matter. The fact that you tried is really, like, gonna change things.
Yeah, and I gotta say, when you talk about test of faith and just having faith, I think, in my opinion, when you have faith, then you're gonna have perseverance. You're gonna continue. You're gonna keep going at it, even when you continue to fail, because that faith is there, and therefore you're gonna continue to try or do different things to get you to that faith that you have, right?
Yeah, crazy faith.
Yeah.
And I would say too, for anyone who does have a crazy idea, to very early on kind of pinpoint your why. Like, why am I doing this? Because it will very soon feel like a crazy idea. I kind of I speak on this a lot, actually. Like, when you have this intuition or this thought, it's like, wow, and everything felt so right. Every time, and I mean every time, there's never a time this doesn't happen. That will follow by hesitation. Like, something kicks in, you have, all these like kind of like attacking thoughts trying to keep you safe. Like, I can't do this. I don't know enough. Like, what people can say, like, all these different reasons not to do it. And that's when you need to have already figured out the why, like, because I want to feel this way, because, the reason is because I think that there is, whatever it is, like, it has to be strong enough where you can come back and remind yourself of, no, this is actually potentially a really good idea. I just need to start, or keep trusting it and keep showing up for the work, because that's when the majority of the work comes after actually starting it, because keeping to it and sticking through in all the hard times, it's really where the legwork is. So
yeah,
go for
and
it.
I'm sure one of the people might be thinking about it. Maybe you can give me on this. How do you define your why, right? Because I think that's probably where people get hung up. Is like, well, I know I have a bigger purpose. I don't understand what's my why, or how did I even get into that, right? How would you come about that?
I would say I really thought about the people that I wanted to help. And for me, it was really as a 13-year-old girl, when I looked into magazines and when I watched movies, I just could not see myself. And sometimes I would physically see myself, but I felt like all the struggles that I was going through, nobody was talking about. So for me, it was really about helping people. Like, I think I didn't make a financial goal for the first few months, because I really just was like, how can we reach the most people? Like, how can we try to get the biggest ideas, not only onto paper, but into action, as far as things that we've done, like Anne connecting us with the UN, and, connecting with different organizations and really helping them propel their mission. So I really had to think why. Money, of course, is going to come in there, but it has to be more than money.
Yeah, I would only just add to that. I think it's so important that the why is something outside of yourself, only because there have been many studies to prove this. People who live the happiest, longest lives are people that have some sort of purpose. It doesn't have to be a huge purpose, but it's something beyond yourself. So I think whatever you do, it doesn't have to be, saving the world or changing this or that. It's like something beyond yourself. And the why needs to be something that can, consist the same over a long period of time. So it shouldn't be something just in the heat of the moment, because then you might lose your motivation as soon as that why fades. So I think something that's just at your core and that will always bring you joy. And I think tapping into your childhood and like, what are the things that I like doing? What brings me joy? I think trying to find your why in your joy and like just happiness in general is like really a good place to start, because money can come in different ways. It can come from different sources. So I think figuring out the things that will keep you happy is ultimately where you should be looking.
Yeah, I love both you guys' points of view, and one thing that I tell people is that if you're working for profits, you're doing it wrong. You have to be working for purpose. Once you work for purpose, the profits will come in, right? And sometimes I see it, and even me when I started as an entrepreneur, my idea was like, how can I make more money? How can I make more money? And I was working for that profits, where in reality it was for me. Val, you talked about, helping people. It was about service. Like, how can I service people? How can I do a lot of that stuff? And when you're doing something that you're joyful, passionate, your work, like what you guys are doing, I think all of that comes into play. And so really identifying that bigger purpose and really what you're trying to do, the enjoyment of that is actually pretty awesome. Now, one thing that I'm pretty interested is that you guys met through a mutual friend. So I want to understand your take on how critical is it to have what they call the average five, or the different kinds of people in your life, right? To your success, whether it's personal or professional.
I think they're critical. I think the people you surround yourself with are absolutely core to everything, to your success, to your well-being, to your spiritual, manifestations. Like just how you wake up in the morning is determined by your core five people. And I now think of Val as one of those people, obviously. But yeah, I would say that's a simple answer. I think it's really important to choose the people that you keep close for many different reasons. And not just because you want to benefit from that person, but because it's like a give and take of energy.
Yeah, for sure. Anne is in my top 5. And when I started doing high level networking, I think that's how I started to meet people who were going to put me in a position to meet people that I needed to meet and be around. I mean, I live in Los Angeles and we are surrounded by, most millionaires of like per capita or per square mile or whatever. And so I thought, I really need to put myself in a position, and this is, the imposter syndrome, get over my fears and just keep talking to people about what I wanted to do as far as my friends who I'm in relationship with. Everybody has to be on the same mission that I am in some way. Like I can't hang out with girls who are going to the club and like, you know what I mean? Like dating guys who take their money. Like I just can't be around those girls. Do you know what I mean? I've got to be around girls who are like in partnerships and growing towards changing things and like making businesses and sticking with them and working towards getting master's degrees. Like that's in my top 5 now.
And I think that's so critical. And at which point were you able to kind of separate, I guess, from the crowd, right? Because I know that some people that I've talked in the past, even some old friends, I can see they want to make that change. They want to make that shift. They want to start hanging around with the right type of crowd. Yet they go back to, well, I know this person for so many years, from high school, from elementary, whatever, right? Or, I've been in this relationship for so many years. And so it's so difficult to separate yourself from that. I know for me, I had a couple of shifts. Like I can already see myself when I go out to dinner with friends. Like I'll be talking, like one friend of mine, he was telling me, like, it's funny when I go out to dinner with you, you talk about the future. How can we, create some joint ventures? How can we start looking at impact in the world differently? And when I have conversations with my older friends, it's like sports, drinks, nonsense kind of thing. Like there's a different dynamic. And I didn't think of that until recently, because again, that was me back in the day in my 20s, right? What is your advice for people that might want to make that shift, that are struggling to really make that shift and change that?
It's so tough. And I know it's not, I just want to say, like, I understand it's hard. It is hard. And, you have strong memories with these people and you feel like they're almost family because you've grown up together, you've been through all the stuff. And the hard part, it becomes really difficult when maybe you're growing and your friend is not. And so the friend is going to try to keep, holding on to you and like, no, don't leave me, And so there might be some feelings of guilt and stuff involved. I think it's really important to remember that people come and go and they all serve a purpose for you, and you serve a purpose for each other in different parts of life, but it is essential to move on. And there are different ways you can do that that doesn't break hearts. Or if you do break hearts, maybe it's sometimes something you have to do too. I'm sounding like the meanest bitch right now, but I just want to say that like, there is no reason you should hold yourself back because you feel like you have this guilt towards someone else. And you can still stay friends. You just don't have to like hang out every weekend, you know, like it's okay to slowly transition into a different world. And I think by doing so and by choosing yourself, it's going to be an organic shift. You know, you're going to see that suddenly that person is calling you less, and you know, like time just kind of goes by and like, oh, hey, we haven't talked in a while. You can check in, but you don't have to like fuel that energy. And if there is there might be a person who's like always trying to like hold you back and like, why are you not calling me? You're leaving me behind. And in those situations, you might have to have the really hard conversation and say, I'm choosing me right now. And I think, you know, I need to move on. And that could be really, really difficult. But even if that's the case, you have to do it because you got to choose yourself.
Yeah, I think Val said it. You got to face your fear. And if your fear is of, you know, removing yourself from that relationship for now, then you got to face that. And it's not easy for sure.
Yeah. And you can still connect with these people on social media. Like I tell people all the time, you don't have to unfollow everyone and block everyone. You just don't have to give them your time. And some people I did have to unfollow because they were just posting such negative stuff. It's like, I don't want to be in a mental fight with you. You know what I mean? And that's also for me, I had to unfollow a lot of people and then follow accounts that were talking about money, prosperity, faith, inspiration, all of those different things, which is like all of our clients. They're fantastic to follow. But I really did have to switch my whole, like what I was looking at every single day, besides just my top 5 inner circle. What am I looking at? What YouTube channels do I subscribe to? What music am I listening to? So that was part of it for me as well. Like Anne said, choosing myself. And that's not selfish. It's like, I'm doing this for prosperity for everyone around me.
Yeah. I love that, and it reminds me of is really creating that full mind shift, right? And I think one thing that is so critical is that just as we are talking, conversating, when we're watching a movie or we're listening to something, we're programming the subconscious mind, and so we got to be conscious of what we're programming ourselves with. And I cut off the news. Like to me, it's like politics or all that stuff that happens, like really bad news. Is just like. It's depressing seeing that. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's like, I don't want to see that. Same thing with music. There's certain music that I don't listen to. I mean, there's been statistics where people have committed suicide because of the freaking lyrics that are being said in songs, right? So for me, it's like, I don't want any of that kind of programs in my head, let alone, you know, even talking to people that are toxic to that nature. So I think that's definitely critical. Let's shift a little bit and tell me about your agency. So I'm a model. I want to get a hold of you guys. One, how did I get a hold of you guys? Or how does this work?
Well, so first of all, anyone can find us online. We are rolemodelsmgmt.com. Same thing goes for our website, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We got it all, Role Models MGMT. But yeah, I would say, first of all, if you want to be a model, I would ask myself like a few times, like, do I want to be a model and why do I want to be a model? Like back to the why, right? Because we say this to everyone, it's a really tough career. You know, you will be on your own a lot. It's a lot of just kind of putting faith into it and working and building a portfolio and going to lots of castings and getting 9 no's and potentially 1 yes. It's just a lot of just, you know, trusting yourself and building yourself up. And it's very, you don't really know from day to day what your day is going to look like. So if you like that kind of lifestyle, then that's great. But I think there's some questions you should ask yourself before going into the industry, because it is, you need to, you know, treat it as a career. There's a lot of responsibility involved with it too. And you might work a lot, or you might work just like very so often. But it can be really fun. It can be very creative and can be very empowering. And we would say, if you do choose to be a model, choose to be one that empowers others and uses his or her platform to inspire change. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I love that. And so what is the normal process? Do you guys interview the models for them to come and work for you guys? If somebody is watching here is like, you know what, I know my why and I know why I want to be a model. I want to reach out to Anne and Val. Like, what is the process? Is there any particular process that you guys go through, or is just, hey, cast with me for one day and let's do this?
Yeah, I definitely submit on the website. There's a page called Join Us.
Okay.
Some people DM us on Instagram, but I'm like, oh, we're not always in there. We don't run it. So just because we need to see what you're about. So there's a part where we have a paragraph and don't write like, I've done the Versace and Gucci fashion show, right? Like, this is, this is where I volunteer. This is what I like. Here's a business that I started. That's what we want to hear. Our models are not always typical. Of course, we have our girls who do catwalks, but we also have entrepreneurs and professional athletes and petite models. So really, what is your why? Put that in the bio.
Yeah. And is there an age, minimum age or age range for people to apply?
A minimum age is, I would say, like 16. That's kind of the youngest we would take. There's some other, kids will probably email us with their parents, but no maximum age. We have models in their 70s.
Nice. That's awesome. So what's next for you guys from the agency? What are some of the next things that you guys are working on?
Right now, Anne, do you want to go? We're doing so much this year. I think mostly we just launched our role models production stamp. A lot of companies last year, their budgets were changed, and we were like, how can we help people with, limited budgets? How can we help people who are changing their whole marketing strategy? And so we've been producing commercials, photo shoots, social media content, and really building up our content creators to help brands. So if you also have a brand and you need content creators, let us know.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also wanted to give, so the production stamps, we have 3 of them. One is ethical, one is sustainable, one is safe. So it's just, if you meet all those standards that we have in this protocol for like, what is a sustainable production and what is an ethical production and what's the safe from a model standpoint production. And if you meet those qualifications, we give you a stamp to say, this is a role models certified production. And more so than anything, we wanted just to launch that to kind of like show production, because production can be so wasteful. And unfortunately, models haven't had many rights. So it's been very, sometimes dangerous situations to be on set for a model. So we just kind of want to just kind of nudge anyone from a brand to production to photographers to models to like, hey, there are certain ways we can do this. It's much better. So let's all come together and work for change. So yeah, we're launching those, which is really exciting. We launched Role Models EDU, which is our educational platform, a couple of years back. So we're focusing more on trying to like use that platform to spread awareness, to help aspiring models know what to do. It can be really kind of like just a maze, understanding like, where do I start? What do I do? How do I get started? And how to make sure that I'm being smart about this. So tips on like, how to test shoot with a photographer and what to think about when you approach an agency. So like, we're just trying to like put more content out there and help people choose wise careers. So some of the things we're doing.
No, I love that. And one thing that I love about this whole thing that you guys are doing is that, again, you guys began with very little, and to be able to sustain, grow, and really just bring the passion, the mission, of the company and the work ethics. And so that's one thing, that the fact that you guys started from very little to being able to grow the company is what the people or the models that are coming to your agency, that's what they're getting, right? They're getting that experience, which I think is very, very important, especially because you came from not having a crazy idea, that foundation, to now growing it to what you have done right now, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I always tell people, don't think that you have too little to start. We literally started our business with like $1,000.
Wow.
If somebody would have told us that we could make hundreds of thousands of dollars, we would have never thought that was possible. So seriously, and we had like a little GoFundMe. And then I think Anne had some money from her aunt. I had like a tax return, and I was like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, again, that's another message, right? It's one of those things like, don't create any limitations for you, right? The opportunity is there. You just got to be able to go out and get it. You got to be able to work for it and be passionate about it. And so, again, whether it's $5 to $1,000 to whatever the number is that you're going to be investing in yourself, it's so critical. I always tell people, make sure that you work harder on yourself than you do on anybody else. So if you're doing your 9 to 5, I am not knocking the 9 to 5 job, except work harder on your passion, work harder on your dream, work harder on yourself. And so I like that. The other thing that I like about, there's a quote by Jim Rohn, and he says, for things to change, you have to change. Mm-hmm. So not the economy, not politics, not whatever is going on. Yeah, I mean, that can have some sort of influence. Yet at the end of the day, you have to change for things to change, right?
And I would say too, like this is something that I keep coming back to, and an advice was given to me early on, is you don't have to know the full journey. Like you don't have to know exactly how you'll do everything, because you're never going to reach the point where you feel fully ready. Like even now, we've been running the business for 4 years. Like, I don't know exactly what we're doing. It's like, we'll figure it out. It's like one step in front of the other. And it's by putting stuff out there and not being afraid of it not being perfect. That's how you learn. And you can't pivot until you start going, right? So I like that analogy of like when you're driving in the dark, as long as you can see where the headlights is showing you, you can make it, you know, to your end destination, but you got to start driving. So I would say that to anyone who has a crazy idea. Don't let it pass, because you're going to look back and be like, well, I wonder what would have happened if I went for that crazy idea. Well, go for the crazy idea and you'll find out, and then you'll figure it out as you go.
Yeah, and you know that's actually I like that, because at the end of the day, it's like I know myself when I started my podcast, when I started my book, I don't know, wherever, not that book. I got hung up on the idea of, well, how's the cover gonna look like? What is gonna be the name of my podcast? So I just got hung up on the idea because I wanted everything to be so perfect. And in reality, it's like now I look back and I'm like, you know, I don't know, 130 episodes, and, you know, had really great speakers like you guys here. And I'm like, wow, that's, you know, again, if I would have got hung up on the idea of I want everything to be perfect, I would have never started, and that opportunity would have left me, right? And so it's a good point, because we do tend to get lost in that, you know, I want everything to be perfect. Yeah. So I have two last questions for you guys before I let you go. If each one of you guys can answer this, how would you define success now that you're in this journey and you've gone through all of this up until this point? How would you define success?
I would define success as not reaching all of your goals, but going for the goals. You know, I think we talked a lot about failure, and how failure can propel you to do the next thing, because there were so many things that we wanted to do. And when we attempted them, maybe they didn't work, but they shifted our perspective and they shifted our business. So I really see success as honestly just trying, putting one foot in front of the other, and then having it get you somewhere.
Nice. And
oh, you want me to answer too?
Yeah.
Like, that was such a brilliant answer. I would say success to me is when I can think back on my day and feel proud of myself, you know, when I feel fulfilled in doing something. And I think we need to redefine what success means. It's not about having that special car, and like, what is success to you? And I think COVID gave us that opportunity to really rethink of, you know, where do I want to live? How do I want to spend my day? What's my weekends filled with? We actually left New York City and moved up to the countryside, and I'm like fully committed now to be this country, you know, entrepreneur, and I can like go for walks in nature in my breaks. So yeah, I think figuring out like what brings me joy and how can I look back and feel proud of what I'm doing. I think that's success in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I like that. I like both of that. I mean, I think that success is not defined by the monetary value that you have. I think is what, like you said, what makes you happy, or, you know, understanding, you know, different aspects of that. And I think new entrepreneurs get hung up on the idea of, well, if I have a lot of money, then I'm very successful. Well, you've seen it too, where people have a lot of money and then they're miserable. They get into drugs. And obviously in LA, we see that a lot, right? LA and New York, actually, both places. So yeah. So if the people that are watching us, listening to us, if they're going through any challenge, whatever challenge that might be for them, what is one thing you can advise them on so they can start overcoming that challenge?
I would say get a partner or a friend or a mentor. Don't do it by yourself. I cannot tell you enough how happy I am I did this with someone so special like Val, you know, on top of it. But just, there will be times when you doubt yourself, when you don't have the energy, when you're not as excited. Like, even if you're working on your biggest dream, there will be days when you'll be like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not fun, because it's still work, right? Yeah. And I think in those times, you know, maybe there are days when I'm strong and that she's not as energized, and there are days when it's the opposite. So having someone else to help, you know, kind of like pave the way, and being there for one another to ask advice or just support, or like just be there. I think it's crucial.
I love that.
Wow. I was going to say mentorship, so I'm so happy she said that. But yeah. Really mentorship, like having someone who has either done what you're trying to do, or who is at a point in their career or life that you want to be like. And then also self-care. And I'm not just talking about getting your nails done and getting your hair done, but like in the morning, I do wake up like 4:30, 5 o'clock, because I need to read devotionals in the morning. I need to connect with my body. I need to exercise. I could not be a mentor to other women or a businesswoman if I didn't take care of myself first.
Yeah. Now, you know, that reminded me of one last question, I guess. Now, you know, I think, you know, I have Tony Robbins refers to them as rituals, but I have habits, right? Daily habits that I do every day. Like I do affirmations, I do exercising, I do journaling, I do gratitude. What are maybe some of the habits that you guys have that people can maybe, you know, start using if they're not doing that?
Yeah, I think we're very much the same, Val and I. It doesn't
Okay.
matter if it's a weekday or a weekend. I will get up around somewhere between 5:30, 6:30, at the very latest 7 if it's a weekend. But yeah, early in the morning. And I like to start by meditating. Maybe I do some creative writing because I love to write, and then I go for a walk.
Yeah.
And I need to do that. My walks are my everything.
I gotta get better at waking up early. I used to wake up at, I've been trying to get up at 5:36, but yeah, it's more like 6:37. I gotta
Not
do
too
that
bad.
early. Yeah, I want to start earlier though. It's just yeah, So, as we are working with different things, I do real estate, so I'm trying to do things on the East Coast. So like my 7 is really 9 o'clock. So I'm already losing, or 10 o'clock. I'm already losing 3 hours. So I do need to wake up a little bit early. But ladies, this was such a great time having you guys here. Anything you guys want to say before I let you go?
I don't
Thank
know.
you for
Yeah,
having
exactly. It's been great. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much. And amazing book. I kind of want to read it because you can never get too much inspiration when it comes to overcoming and just trusting yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I started a series of that too. So we're working on another. I have another book coming out in about a month or so. Just really inspiring people, and the idea is to empower them and give them motivation. So yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate you both being here. So, guys, please make sure you connect with Anne and Val. You can look them up at Role Model Management MGMT. I'll have that information on the link so you can actually connect with them. Yeah, please check them out. Reach out to them. If you're trying to be an inspiring model, please go to their site and stay tuned to the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. See you then.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.